Welcome to Global Citizen Life. Today on the podcast, we have Queen Michele. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Happy to
Well,
be
we've
here.
been chit-chatting a little bit before starting this recording, and we've got a lot to dive into. So let's jump right in first to you moving abroad to Mexico. So why did you choose Mexico as the destination? And then within all of the amazing places within Mexico, why did you choose the region that you chose?
Okay, thanks for asking. Well, let's see. How did I choose Mexico? Well, I retired from teaching 27 years. I was living in Atlanta. And when I first retired, boy, that first year, I was kind of having fun. I was doing things that I never would have normally done to supplement my pension. Because when I got that first pension check, I said, okay, we're going to need a little supplement. Supplement.
Mhm.
But after a year, I said, hey, wait a minute. I'm going to always have to do this, work to supplement the pension. And you know what? I didn't want to be 70 years old saying, welcome to Walmart, because you see them there. So I started researching the top 10 places to retire. And Mexico checked all the boxes. And I'm going to tell you why.
Nice.
Um, as it relates to location, first and
Mhm.
foremost, I was living in Atlanta and I chose the state. Mexico has 32 states, and I
Mm.
chose the state of Jalisco. Now, Jalisco houses the largest freshwater lake in the country of Mexico.
Oh,
That lake
wow.
is called that lake is called Lake Chapala. Now, surrounding that lake are little towns and villages, but especially on the north shore of that lake, it is the largest expat community in the country of Mexico. So
That
I
surprises.
knew
I would have expected it to be a little bit more of the beach communities that the
no,
expats would generally
absolutely.
go to. So
It is the
good to know for
largest.
people.
Now, mind you, it is thusly a pretty much a retirement
Mhm.
community, but it is packed with Americans and Canadians and snowbird who are full time, and then those who are part time. And some of the towns along that North Shore, Ajijic is a very popular, it's actually like the expat hub. And they have a place there
Okay.
called Lake Chapala Society. And Lake Chapala Society is the landing spot for expats who come in. You start there and then you begin venturing out. They have classes in the library and music and field trips and any and everything you know how to connect into your community. Very, very soft landing connected to Lake Chapala Society. So the boxes that it checked for me was location. From the capital of Jalisco is Guadalajara. So
Mhm.
from Atlanta to Guadalajara, it's a 3.5 hour nonstop plane ride.
Nice.
3.5 hours from Atlanta to Guadalajara. And the area, that North Shore from the airport in Guadalajara, it's a 45-minute, 30, 45-minute drive into that shoreline.
Mhm.
So location was one. The second
Mhm.
was climate. The Lake Chapala region was deemed by the National Geographic the second best climate in the world. And it's because it's eternally spring. Now, see,
Ah.
it's a dry spring and a
Mhm.
wet spring, but it's spring nonetheless. And it
Mhm.
does, when it rains at night. And
Oh,
and for the
perfect.
most, isn't it weird? Isn't it weird if it happens in the afternoon? That's a shock, and we're like, "Wow, it's raining." It usually happens at night. So location, climate, and then the third thing was the expat community being
Mm.
able to land softly, and in a strange space, in another country. Now I'm gonna tell you this: when I moved to Lake Chapala, I moved into my one bed uh, condo with a fireplace, a mirror door, swimming pool, laundry room. And now we'll get into finances. That was $500 a month. Uh, it, very walkable. The town was
Oh,
very
perfect.
walkable as well. No car, you didn't need a car, and landed very, very softly amongst the expats. I had another thought going, but maybe it'll come back. You
Right.
ask me a question, it'll come back.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's perfect. It's really important to know what we want. And I
Yes.
tell people all the time, like one could be for, especially for me, weather. And it's part of the reason why I left Canada. I hate winter, too cold, don't like it. Um, and an expat community, especially for a first move, I always highly recommend it. I've lived now in, including Canada, 5 different countries, probably moving to my sixth later this year. Um,
Okay.
so I'm a little bit more adventurous. And it is, it is only me. I've done it many a time. So I kind of know what to expect. For people for the first time, I always recommend, especially if they're a little unsure, is to check out those expat communities because it is a lot harder if there are no expats at all. Now, I know that's what some people want. And if they're very clear that they say, I want to be part of the culture, I don't want to be around any expats, that's great. And then you choose those things. But knowing what you want is very, very important. Um,
Yes, it
so
is.
so that's great. And Mexico is really popular for, as you said, full-time expats, and then the
Yes,
part-time, or as we say in Canada, the snowbirds, because they want to get out of winter in Canada, which I don't blame them at
absolutely.
all.
Yes, absolutely. Knowing what you want and creating a soft landing for yourself is extremely important. People ask, first thing they ask is, "Do you speak Spanish?" And see, here's the thing, and here's the catch with that, because I was studying. Listen, I probably know over 3,000 words, stringing them together. Now I can read pretty well, but speak, living. On that North Shore of Lake Chapala, I really didn't need to. 'Cause
Right.
I didn't need. They cater to the expats there. It is their livelihood. I spent
Hmm.
COVID. When COVID hit in 2020, it was on that North Shore of Lake Chapala. I am a residente permanente resident there. That's the visa hold, and they took care of that North Shore like you wouldn't believe. They locked it off almost. Coming in on that North Shore and leaving out because they wanted to take care of the expats who are retired, up in age, and they were talking about how it was sweeping the elderly community. So they kept us safe because let me tell you, that's their economy right there. We
Right.
go, the economy
The
would go. So
economy goes as
yeah, they
well.
took good care of us.
So
Yeah.
what about some of the expenses there compared to Atlanta for cost of living, daily goods? Like you've
Okay.
already said, your rent was 500, which I don't know Atlanta very well, but I'm assuming you probably cannot get a one-bedroom apartment for that price, and you don't need a car, which saves thousands of dollars.
Well, see, and here's the thing, and that's why. Remember, I was supplementing my
Mhm.
pension starting off and having some fun, but realizing that I would always have to do that. I'm gonna be honest with you, my pension was my rent. That's why I was working for all the other things,
Right.
utilities, food, gas for the car,
Entertainment,
everything.
everything.
Absolutely, absolutely, and so when I moved in 2017, when I moved to Mexico, my pension was $1,100. That's what I got for my pension. Now,
Wow.
my rent, again, in my one bedroom, gated condo apartment. It was a 28 unit gated condo apartment with a fireplace and a mirror door, a swimming pool, and a laundry room. The grounds were so well kept, and I was right off the main street, the Carretera, and that was 500. So that only left what, 600? Right,
Mhm.
600 for the month. But as you know, living in, I have no car. My cell phone bill was $15 a month. My internet was $20 a month. Uh, Gas was, I don't know, 10,
Mhm.
and the
Yep.
electric bill every other month, oh shoot, I don't know, 15. 15. So, and let's not even begin talking about the food, the freshness from farm to
Oh,
table, the open markets where when I when I moved to Mexico, I weighed over, I'm 5'1". I weighed over
okay.
500. Sorry, I'm 5'1". I weighed over 200 pounds. But before I moved there, I was watching this one particular group. And I'll tell anybody, man, if you're thinking about a particular place, jump on Facebook because they have Facebook groups. Just put
Yep.
the name in and you will see. And they have expat groups for that. And then just start following the thread. You will probably start getting to know people that you you look forward to their what they say. So um so the food is delicious, and transportation, if I caught the bus to the next town, and that was 7 pesos. What is that, 35 cents?
Yeah, it's
So I was watching this hiking group, and Ahihi hiking group, and I said, wow, that's I want to do that. And set the intention that when I got there I would. So I joined the hiking group, and it was I started hiking. I come from concrete jungles.
yeah.
Detroit, born and raised, 11 years in Las Vegas, 4 years in
Wow.
Atlanta. Uh, and then here I am in Mexico looking at a mountain talking about I want to hike it, right? But here are people 10 and 15 years my senior. And they were hiking those mountains, having conversations, and here I was, the weakest link. I'm thinking, I don't want to go on this baby trail, but they said starting off, take the baby trail. But listen, I lost, God, 35 pounds. I mean, it changed the whole trajectory. Then, so I've lost the weight. I'm
Mhm.
eating well. Now I'm
Mhm.
focusing on me. Next thing that happened, there's meditation, there's yoga, there's this group, there's that group, there's just an explosion of life that took me in a direction that uh, I'm also a blogger, and
Mhm.
I blogged, of course. I wrote a book actually about my experience of moving from Atlanta to Mexico. It's called Considerations, a guide for moving abroad. It's 10 chapters, and each chapter is a consideration. I mean, consider visas, consider downsizing, consider finances, consider healthcare, consider transportation, those things that you consider. So basically,
Mhm.
and it's all based on my experience of 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 moving to Mexico. So learned a lot, and from that was able to. I was there for 4 years, and it was my blog. After the book I wrote, I continue with a blog. That's the blog is entitled "Keeping Tabs in Mexico." Now come
Okay.
videos of me catching the bus or seeing the market. So now I wrote the book, but now I'm here.
Mhm.
So that blog, I did it for a year, keeping tag once a month, keeping tags in Mexico. One of the blogs is called "The Energy of Lakeside." Now, Lakeside, that place is so special. It's so special. I did experience a spiritual awakening there. But listen, it contains a vortex, an energy vortex. The lake is special. The mountain is special. The energy of Lake Chapala, it's transforming. And I speak about that. It's called the in that blog, it's called the energy of Lakeside. Uh, and that's still located on my website. That's now turned into uh, the website for my um, curriculum that I created for 7th through ninth grade students, called uh, mm, 52 Insights for Gen Alpha, a conscious curriculum. Wrote that book in Mexico. Wrote Traveling Home Together, a spiritual guidebook in Mexico. Considerations, a guide for moving abroad in Mexico. The Road to Well-being in Mexico. It's, hey.
But were you an English teacher? Is that like, were you
I
writing
was.
before you went to
I
Mexico?
was not I was not writing before I went to
Okay.
Mexico. However, I was. Language arts is my forte.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, and it's interesting because when we have more time to do things, we do more things. And what I think is great about this is you knew once you got to Mexico, like obviously you did some research and stuff, and you're like, I'm going to try
Yes.
hiking. I'm doing that new thing I've never done before, and I'm just going to go do it. And it's so good that you did because people sometimes go with intention. We all have intention to do many a things, but then
Yes.
sometimes we don't, and especially, if we don't, like you said, you were the newest one there, and people were fitter and had more energy and
Yes.
everything, and that a lot would make a lot of people just be like, then I'm not. I don't want to be kind of the, unfit one or the worst one or the slowest one or whatever else our brain says to us out of the
Hmm,
group. But it's
hmm.
so good that you're like, no, this is a new start. This is a new, and I'm going to do it. And I'm sure it was hard and challenging, and you did it again, and you did it again, and you did it again.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. And I tell you that the hiking group, the people that I met as we hiked those mountains, hikers are some of the coolest people on the planet. I'm telling
Mm,
you, I enjoyed it. So when I moved to Mexico, 2 weeks after moving there, I started the hiking group. And 2 months after living there, I turned 55. And I had a party on the rooftop of El Barco with 30 of my closest friends. 2 months, right? But it was
nice.
the hikers.
Mm,
It was just, I tell you, it was expanding. It was expansive. Mind, body, and soul expands. I don't know what it is about. I don't. Maybe Canada. I understand moving away from the cold. The energy of the states, the United States, can be heavy. It's a dense,
mm,
heavy energy, and I uh, am an energetic being.
mm,
And so I'm sensitive to that weight. So being able to go to a place where the air is different, the
mm,
food is different, the people are
mm.
different, the plants are different. Dogs are about the same, but even the
Yeah,
dogs are different. I think a United States dog compared to a Mexican dog is quite different because they're quite chill. They
yeah.
are
It's
different.
it's
You
it's
don't you don't
different.
run from them. You're not scared of them. You pretty much kind of say, "Excuse me," walk around them, step over them. I've never come across a vicious dog in Mexico,
Nice.
and I walked all through
Hmm.
the
Well, and
streets.
a lot, and there have been scientific studies that being in nature reduces our stress and our anxiety. And if we walk on the ground, so bare feet, no shoes on
Hmm.
the dirt, the sand, the beach, the grass, like whatever, so not concrete, not driveway, and no shoes, but
That's
actual earth, that
right.
the magnetic energy it is, or it's some type of energy anyway. That energy
Ah,
is so good for us. We need it. And being in
woo!
nature with the clean air and the trees and the everything. Not that I would hike. with bare feet because I do enjoy
Right,
hiking,
of
but
course.
those are two
Yeah.
different things for me.
You
So it's like
hiking boots.
walking
Yeah.
in bare feet is great. And then also hiking and being in nature and stuff is so good for us on so many levels.
So many levels. So many levels. Yeah. It was like it was life changing. It was life transforming for me. And it was for a time such as this. I believe that I was plucked and placed in this place so that those deposits and everything that was going to, it was always coming. It was my journey anyway. I've looked at things back 20 years ago. I was an administrator for about 4 years, and one of the newsletters that I sent out, I came across, and I promised that newsletter I was suggesting to parents, maybe to build a home altar, so that you can, and just get closer. I'm suggesting meditate. This is 20 years ago when I never had dreamed of moving to Mexico, so it was always my journey. I believe in some respect that was me, because I was that one who would do it anyway. I'm scared, would do it afraid. I did it
Do
afraid.
and it's interesting because I think a lot of times like if we document things, have journals, keep stuff like that, and if you go back and look, the things that we wrote 20-ish or more years ago, depending upon how old everybody listening is, but you go back,
Mm.
there's certain things that are like, wow, I really wanted that and it happened. Or I kind of talked about it, and now I'm on like there. It may not be, like one
Right.
thing for me, I remember when I was in high school, and I'm assuming it was winter. I don't really remember. I know we were standing outside at school, and I was probably cold, so it must have been winter. And I remember saying to my friends, it's like, I think I've been switched at birth. They were like, "What? Your parents aren't your parents?" I'm like, "Not literally. Like, I look like my parents. I look like my family. Like, I'm
Okay.
not literally switched at birth." But I just said, "I'm not supposed to live in Canada my whole life. Like, I don't know
Mhm,
what it is, but
mhm.
like, I'm not supposed to be here forever. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Who knows? I'm like 16 years old at this time." And my friends are like, okay, sure, whatever.
Uh, were you always a journaler? Did you always journal? Were
No,
you
I
a
never journal. And I start and then I stop
really?
and then I start and I stop. And it's one of those things that it's
Ah.
just never, I wished I did it more and consistently. And it's just
Mm.
something
I've
I've just never
always
got
been I've
into.
always journaled. And that's something that's very, very, that's a huge part, believe it or not. This will be a whole nother discussion of shadow work. All the journaling that I was doing, it was the shadow work. People would tell you, you got to do the work. You got to do the work. I was doing the work, didn't even know that I was doing the work.
Mm,
And again, it goes back to me writing, this curriculum, or writing this course, not knowing who it's truly for. That's when the trust of the universe comes in. I believe that things will be as they're
right.
supposed to be. It shall be. It will.
And sometimes you just know, but you don't know. Like,
Right.
if that made like, it was again, back to that, like, I knew I wasn't meant to live in Canada, and I'm like, I'm a 16-year-old kid, what the heck do I
When you
really
know,
know? But
you
it was
know.
that
I like that.
feeling in my gut and soul that I was like,
I
"It's
know.
not meant for me," but what it was going to be. If you would have told me at that time how like, at that moment, somebody says, "Oh, this is your life, this is what you're gonna do," I would have started laughing and said, "You're crazy. There's no way."
I know.
But
If
it
they would have told me that, I never would have thought in a million years that I would be back in my hometown, in my parents' home, caring for them full time. That's the thing that changed the trajectory of my life. You couldn't have told me that would have ever, man, no way, because I was living in Mexico. I'd made it, I was there. But
right.
coming back here, being
Mhm.
unexpected. When I got the call, Pop is 99. with dementia. Mom is 86, and at that time, and they were both in the when I got here, they were both in the hospital. He's on one end of the hallway, and she's on the other.
Oh,
When they come out, there was no one to take care of them. I came, for a couple of months. I told my people in Mexico, yeah, I gotta go check on mom. Yeah, I'm gonna go there. I'm thinking I'm gonna come roll my sleeves up, get in where I fit in. I do have two older brothers, Dumb and Dumber, so didn't know that it was going to fall completely on me. So when it did, hey, jumped in, of course. I I did it. And I was still paying rent on my condo that I moved in for 10
because you
months.
weren't going to be there for that long, like
Right. I was
in
only
back in
coming
the
for
US. Yeah.
so all of my things were there, so of course I continued to pay. It was 10 months before I got back to wrap up everything and come back here, being that the trajectory of my life had changed. But yeah, it's that whole thing. But that was supposed to happen, and I get that. And what's the reward now? I'm moving back to Mexico. But this
Right.
time, I'm not moving back to Lake Chapala. Believe it or not, and I'm going to put this out there. It's a little bit upon my spending budget right now. I mean, it's gotten a little expensive over there. I'm gonna tell
Mhm.
you this: expats will draw the prices up in
Yeah.
neighborhoods, and it's happened. And I kind of feel bad that I'm not even going back to the place that I could, because I'm probably some of the reason I wrote the book. I got a lot of people who were saying, "What?" And so sorry. So now I'm going to the state of Chiapas, to a
Okay.
lovely town called San Cristobal de las Casas,
Oh, that
to the
sounds lovely.
barrio of De la Delicias, the of delights,
Wow.
neighborhood of delights,
Mhm.
garden of delights. Yes. And I head out the 1st of June, wrapping it
Fantastic.
up
Well,
all
again,
here.
it's a new adventure, so there
And
will
it's a
be
new
new
adventure.
things, but some
Absolutely.
familiarity to it because you're like, "Oh, I've done this
Mhm,
before, so I've
mhm,
got
mhm.
some familiar kind of stuff, and I
It
know the
does
bit of
not have the
emotion to go
expat.
to." Yeah,
Right,
but it's
absolutely.
new.
It's new. It doesn't have the expat population, but it does have that beautiful town center with a lot of
Mhm.
a lot of tourism.
Yeah.
San Cristobal de las Casas is pretty heavy in tourism. It's a
Okay.
beautiful, beautiful town. Beautiful town.
Nice.
But again,
Nice.
my direction is different now. My
Yeah.
journey is, I'm on a different path. I'm actually
Mm.
going there. I'm gonna be a quieter. I'm not going to broadcast this time, or show this or show that. Or you can do this. This time I'm being called there, to that special place. Uh, and I want to dive deeper into my spiritual practices. Be
Nice. And
quieter.
you
And
that's
I have some healing to do, you know.
yeah.
I do have
Yeah.
some healing to do.
That's
Recognizing that.
that's important. Recognizing is step
Mhm.
one, for sure.
Mm.
And another thing that I just kind of although I love Mexico, I've been there myself, and I know many people are
Mm.
interested. I we are a bit limited for time. I mean, we could talk for hours, I know, but to keep that I do want to, on a bit of a side note, because we were talking a little bit before recording, you're also working on getting another citizenship, but it has
Oh, that's
nothing
right.
to do with any of the Americas,
That's
north, south,
right.
nothing. So
That's right.
let's talk a little bit about that because I
Okay.
found it to be very fascinating and something I had no idea was even a possibility. And I love to share as much information as possible while I learn stuff myself.
Okay. All right. So, um, ancestry.com? You know Ancestry,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I've wanted to do that
You
for a
might
long
okay.
time.
Well, see,
Yeah.
you haven't done it yet. Okay, well,
No, my brother has
Ancestry.
though, so I'm like, "Oh,
Oh,
he's done it." So,
oh, well,
no.
he's done it. Okay. Well, see, here's the thing. Ancestry will tell you that you're a little bit of this, you're a little bit of that, you're a little bit of this.
Hmm.
Your region is kind of over there.
Mhm.
But over 20 years ago, a group of Black scientists got together and they created the largest database of Black blood in the world. It's called africanancestry.com. Now, when you
Okay.
take their DNA test, not only will they tell you what country, because you know the continent of Africa is made up of 52 sovereign countries. They have their own
Right.
money, own government. You know, it's not like going from
Language,
state to state.
everything.
Right. You go, yes, uh they have 3,000 tribes and over 2,000 languages on the continent of Africa, 52 sovereign countries. So, um, African ancestry will tell you what country your bloodline originated. Not only will it tell you what country your bloodline originated in, it'll also tell you your tribe. So
That's so fascinating.
your tribe, okay? So I took the African ancestry DNA test. It came back, and I discovered that I am from the tribe, the Fula tribe of Guinea-Bissau, West Africa. Now I took the maternal test, so my maternal bloodline originated in Guinea-Bissau, West Africa. So what I'm talking about is my mother's 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 mother's, all the way dating back anywhere between 200 250 years. Now, when she got here, she got mixed with a whole bunch of other stuff. But the original bloodline is that of Fula from Guinea-Bissau, West Africa. And you will find that those who take that test, the African Americans who take the test, that they're going to find more than likely is on that western coast that they will
Okay.
find their country, because that
Mm.
was that coast where the Atlantic, slave trade took place. So once I discovered that I was Fula from Guinea-Bissau, West Africa, I took a trip there. Um, uh, Took out a loan and I got with a tour group uh, called Repat Guinea Busau. And I'm gonna tell you about there's several groups, many group, not many, but some groups like that. You see, what's happening in some countries in Africa, if you can prove your lineage through that DNA test. So my DNA says that my maternal lineage is that of Guinea-Bissau, Fula, West Africa. You can then apply for citizenship of that
That's
country.
amazing.
So let me tell you what happened on I'm telling my age now. On my 60th birthday, with the tour group that was sponsored, helped sponsor me, I stepped foot back into the Fula, my ancestral Fula village. And I was the third person to have ever stepped back in that village on that land. And understand this, when I went back, I took my mother's mother, I took them all back. When my foot hit it hit the land, so did theirs. You
Mhm.
understand? Because
Yep.
DNA and blood, lineage,
It's in
it
you.
is real. Trauma can be passed down through DNA. It's
Yes.
called generational trauma. But just like
Mm.
trauma can pass down through DNA, so can healing. So can healing. So I believe that was my call to do that, because it's when I returned from that trip. Um, I started a nonprofit organization called Fula History and Genealogy Society in America. And we have four tenets. The first tenet is just to raise awareness about
Mm.
generational trauma. Just, that is out there.
Yep.
And the second thing is to create, establish and promote educational materials for Generation Alpha. And I'm going to tell you real quick who they are. Generation Alpha are those individuals born between 2010 and 2024. The oldest of that generation turned 13 last year. So
Okay.
my grandson who's 6, he's Generation Alpha, and they are the first generation to be born fully in the 21st century. And so what that means is that the influences that all of us had, I'm a boomer, the last of the boomers, those influences have no true impact for the most part on this generation. They are so important. They are going to be the largest generation in the history of the world. They are, and here I go on my tangent, they are responsible for the evolution of the consciousness of humanity. They are extremely important. I'll tell you about them. From day one, the phone went into the hand.
Phone.
The phone, they are the generation who was only stimulated and taught externally. Externally. That's the only way. They will be in on platforms and in spaces free. They are now free of parental influence. They will be in platforms and in spaces that their parents don't even understand. And it's not our fault. It's not their fault that it went in there, because of course that generation, they're the kids of the millennials and some X's as well, those late X's. um they said, oh wow, I can get the dishes done. Oh man, I can. I can it, and it's educational, but and that's cool. I get it. We were evolving, but at the same time, what we neglected to do, because we were trying to keep up at the same time, is give them the emotional intelligence that it will take
Mm,
to balance that external stimuli. We haven't given them the balance yet. That's what's missing from that. And we, like I said, we still got and we are responsible for that. Yeah, we can't go where they're going, but we can give them the emotional intelligence to navigate those spaces and realms and in platforms that they are going, and that they are there's not a balance yet. So
right.
I created 52 insights for Gen Alpha, a conscious curriculum. It's not, and that's something that needs to be in the schools everywhere, because no one's
Mhm.
considering the balance that needs to take place. It's just a course that needs to be in there. Because remember back, well, I don't know if you do, but we had home economics, we had
Oh,
shop,
yes.
we
Oh,
had
yes.
we had,
That's
those are things of the
yes.
time. But how about a program that just helps social with the social awareness, the emotional
Mhm.
intelligence, the relationship skills, so there are activities and practices that we can give them to help them navigate. Because if we don't, well, it's going to have to happen.
Yeah.
It has to. So I'm one of those. And who knew that
Right.
starting in Mexico, all that I wrote in Mexico, full circle back, which changed the trajectory of my life, to create
Mhm.
this and put it out there, so that I said it's a wonderful journey that I'm on, and I'm excited that my reward is now I get to go back and in that space and delve deeper and
I I
putting my feet in grass again.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm just like, I definitely want to have a conversation with you again, in
Okay.
the
Okay.
future, because I'm
Yes,
very
please.
intrigued to see
Yes.
what has happened. Has something else come around full circle? What else is new? Did you get your citizenship in Africa, and then
Right,
you
right.
going to bring your program to schools in Africa, or who knows what?
Let's try it. Let's try across the neck. It was the hardest thing. It's being piloted in two middle schools right now, but local middle schools. It was so hard getting it in for this school year. I would go to board meetings and districts meetings and see what it is. And then it came time for me to speak. And I got up there with, hi, yes, I have this great curriculum, it's meditation. And they say, yeah, thank you. Next. You know, there weren't,
But the
and even,
challenges are what makes us stronger. And if everything was easy, people would do way more. But it's the persistence
yes.
that's needed. And the things that are needed most are the ones that need the persistence from people like you.
Listen, and even the teachers. Once I trained and put it in the teachers' hands. And here's the thing, and I'm gonna say this, and we got to get off this because we could stay forever. Unconscious can't teach consciousness.
No.
You understand?
Yeah, you're right.
Unconscious can't teach consciousness. And my thought was, now see, if this was put in my hands when I was a teacher, oh, I would have ate it up, you know. But again, con- unconscious can't teach consciousness. Those, and I get it. Hey, no mark against them. They up against a lot for a lot.
Mhm.
Listen, they're underpaid, overworked, overwhelmed. They're putting out flyers everywhere. Administration coming down, test scores. Your kids are not growing. The kids are already 2 years behind. They're supposed to create miracles, and they're having all these,
Yeah.
behavior issues. And then here I come with, hey, let's teach them to
Got a
breathe.
program to make everything better.
Yeah, so it was really hard getting them. So I
Mhm.
had a couple teachers and I had a few parents and few
Mhm.
students, and with those, I dug in and we've they will be the ambassadors for the program. And listen,
Perfect.
pre-sales start in March. I'm really trying to get this out here, and I'm starting to target more homeschoolers. I understand now that
Okay.
my subgroups
Mhm.
need to be those who. Why am I pushing this to an unconscious, and saying, "Hey, do this."
Mhm.
When my subgroup, I'm gonna have to start with those who are doing it, who will embrace it,
Start
and
with
then
the
from
path of
there,
least resistance instead of the path
yes,
of most resistant.
yes, yes, yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely,
It's gonna be amazing, and I know, we are on a deadline here,
yes.
but what I will do is I have the links for your books. I
Oh,
will make sure
wonderful!
those are all in the show notes and your
Great.
foundation, and so people can get in touch with you and reach out to you, and I just wanna say thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed and I can't wait to come back. I am vibrating like crazy over here. I don't know. This energy is very strong. I think we are kindred spirits in some way. And I think we are going to get back together. And then who knows? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
feel it.
know.